Hello and welcome to Punk Science TV. I'm Dr. Manjir, and this time we're going to be talking about antimatter. So, what exactly is antimatter? Well, it comes down to this man, Paul Dirac, who predicted the existence of antimatter. So, that is where you have a particle of matter, such as an electron, and you have its opposite particle, like an anti-electron or what's known as a positron, for example. And various forms of matter have various forms of antimatter associated with them. Now, it's supposed to be quite rare in the universe, and it was eventually detected in cosmic rays, which won Paul Dirac a Nobel Prize. So the idea is that shortly after the Big Bang, that all the matter and antimatter in the universe annihilated each other. And I'll try and show you what that looks like. And I'll just hide myself for a few minutes. So when a particle of matter and antimatter come together and they create a form of radiation such as a gamma ray burst, and we can tell by the sort of signature of that radiation what has actually created it. So we know that it's a particle of matter and antimatter colliding that's created that. So we think that this is what happened in the early days of the universe. And somehow, not really sure how, but a little bit more matter was created than antimatter. So matter won the day, and that's why we see more matter than antimatter in the universe today. That really is the explanation, which is quite intriguing. So, cut to recent times, and actually, we've been finding antimatter quite a lot in the universe. So, one example is the antimatter fountains that are actually coming out of the Milky Way itself. There's huge cascading amounts of positrons, so very close to the galactic center. And this is quite a recent article. So saying the problem is not merely one of genesis, but how to explain what's hurling 15 billion tons of positrons per second, like water spray, thousands of light years above the galactic plane. So some people say it's dark matter, but the translation, as you can see, no one has a clue. So this just goes to show that there's so much that we still don't understand about the universe, even though it can be quite powerful and quite common, as in this is happening quite a lot. But once you understand the black hole principle, things start to make sense because you've got this pattern of light coming through the dimensions, the edge of our reality at the speed of light, the perception horizon, and it forms matter and antimatter, which then combine again to form light. And this is happening at every single level of the universe. So what we're going to expect at every single level of the universe are signatures of this matter antimatter coming together and creation and coming together. And it's happening at the edge of our perceptions, which happen to be at the speed of light, what we call the speed of light. But there are other levels of light beyond what we call the speed of light, and that is what's actually creating what we see around us as our universe from infinity. So we can see this all over the universe, but one of the examples I'm giving here is the so-called antimatter factory on the sun. And if you can see here is also, it says that the sun is blasting subatomic particles to almost at the speed of light. So that's another great example. What's actually happening is the particles are coming into our universe, and as they get just below the speed of light, they actually seem to be moving very, very fast. But what's happened is they've just slowed down to enter our universe. So there's a whole most of the universe is actually things that we can't perceive, which is why people talk about dark matter and dark energy. But it comes even closer to home. And once you know the basic pattern, you can start predicting these things. And one of the places people found antimatter is in thunderstorms. So I predicted this happening in my book in 2005, the book Punk Science. And what happened is that in 2011, they actually discovered that beams of antimatter using a gamma ray telescope. So they think that they were formed inside a terrestrial gamma ray flash associated with lightning. So this is going on actually above our heads, these antimatter particle beams. And they don't make any sense from mainstream science, but when you understand the underlying simple principle, the black hole principle, you can not only expect this, you can predict this as well. So another example is in hurricanes. So back in 2018, we actually, some scientists actually published that they had discovered positron beams inside hurricanes. So this again was a surprise to the scientists, but it's another example of how at every single level you're seeing the same sort of pattern. So in hurricanes are behaving in some ways the same as a galactic black hole. It's producing electrons, the lightning, the positrons, the antimatter, and also the gamma ray bursts. And also the water as well, which is something that we know black holes produce and we know that hurricanes produce. So once you have the simple underlying pattern, you can understand why antimatter, which is supposed to be very rare, is actually being seen all over the universe. And so I hope that was an interesting episode of Punk Science TV for you. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye bye.